has been in the news relatively frequently over the last couple of weeks because he's been interviewing for offensive coordinator jobs. He was interviewing for the Raiders job a couple of times. Then it looked like they were going to go with Cliff Kingsbury, and then Cliff Kingsbury takes the Commanders offensive coordinator job. So at the time of us being live, Chip Kelly does not have an NFL OC job, but he has interviewed for several. If we're reading the writing on the wall, Chip Kelly wants out of UCLA to go take an NFL job. That's the way this thing looks. Is that how it is? Remains to be seen, but that's the way it looks. And this whole segment, I want us to just kind of unpack, like, can you blame Chip Kelly? And this may not impact directly your school, but I think it's a learning lesson for a lot of schools to kind of take note of. Think about where UCLA was towards the end of last year. Going into that USC game, there was a lot of rumors, a lot of rumblings around, well, hey, could Chip Kelly be fired if they lose to USC? That was the report out of some camps. UCLA goes on to beat USC, and then they lose their last game of the year. I believe it was to Cal. Doesn't get fired. His job is safe. And the whole time I was sitting there saying, like, why? Why would you fire Chip Kelly? In what world does that make sense for your football team? All he's done, the last couple of years at least, is trend upward. They had 8 wins in 2021, 9 wins in 2022. They won 8 games in 2023. But before that, they were not that great, was UCLA. They had struggled. Now, looking forward to the future, though, with Chip Kelly wanting out of UCLA, going back to this whole can you blame him conversation, how many great relationships, how many great results have come from a situation where a head coach is almost fired? Very, very few. Very, very few. And my question, again, for UCLA would be, why? Why is that somehow a good move for your football team? Even further, if I'm Chip Kelly, why am I sticking around? You almost fired me after we won 9 games last year. I've got my quarterback of the future here at this point in time in Dante Moore. Why would you part ways with Chip Kelly as you move into a more difficult conference? Now, going back to Chip Kelly, you don't need to be somewhere that you're not wanted. Like, let's just call a spade here. Chip Kelly has got some credentials to his name, has had a lot of success as a head coach, has had success as a play caller. And I think in some ways that's why you look to where they are right now and Chip Kelly interviewing for NFL jobs, in the sense that, like, he doesn't need to be somewhere he's not wanted. Chip Kelly being at UCLA was always a benefit to Chip Kelly. Always a benefit for UCLA. I don't know if it was always a benefit to Chip Kelly. If he won there, great. But, like, Chip Kelly doesn't have anything to prove. Chip Kelly doesn't have anything he needs to, write down in the history books to prove his salt as a coach in the football world. Looking forward to where UCLA is in the future and why it makes sense for Chip Kelly to be interviewing for NFL jobs. There's a lot of things that don't bode well for their success in the future. Your defensive coordinator, he's at USC. Your quarterback, he's transferred out to Oregon. You look at where they're headed in the Big Ten Conference. UCLA is going to enter into that conference not in a great spot, to say the least, compared to an Ohio State, compared to a Penn State, compared to a Michigan. Like, UCLA is, I think, in for a little bit of a rude awakening, if we can even say that. In some ways, it's a sinking ship. If I'm Chip Kelly, why would I stay on this thing? You already wanted me fired, based on some reports at least, or we're close to firing him based on some reports. It's going to get tougher. It's looking like it's going to be tougher to win. Yeah, I'll go take an NFL job. I'll go be successful as a play caller for one of those 32 NFL teams, and quite frankly, a position that Chip Kelly, I believe, is qualified for. Like, a lot of coaches, I believe, would like NFL jobs. Just from what I'm hearing, there's a pretty long line to get NFL jobs, and a lot of guys aren't qualified or cut out for it. Chip Kelly checks all the boxes you need to be an NFL coordinator. And I think him getting this many interviews with NFL coordinator jobs proves as much. But the cherry on top of this whole thing, quick cough, the cherry on top of this whole thing, to be real, Chip Kelly wants to coach football, and the collegiate ranks, the job description of being a head coach in college football has less and less to do with just coaching college football. And we're all kind of on the same page here in the sense that to be successful now as a head coach, you have to coach football well. That's an obvious part of this. But you also have to be a great manager of your roster, retain the right guys, be able to raise funds in the NIL perspective, be able to scout the transfer portal. Like, there's so many things now that go into being a college football head coach that I don't know that Chip Kelly really is all that excited about doing. That's my perception. I don't know if that's the facts. But again, you're an elite offensive minded for Chip Kelly. You've had success virtually everywhere you've been. Yeah, I'm going to go coach the NFL. I'm going to have a little bit more time with my family. I'm going to be somewhere I'm wanted. That makes sense. Again, can you blame Chip Kelly for wanting out of UCLA when they thought about firing him based on certain reports? I have a hard time believing that's really something that would be beneficial for Chip Kelly. And also for UCLA, like at this point now, who do you go get? Where do you go from here if you move on from Chip Kelly? If Chip Kelly moves on from you now is the better thing to say, actually. If Chip Kelly goes and takes another job, who do you go hire? I think you're in a tricky situation there. Because, again, I think Chip Kelly, what he's done at UCLA, what he was doing before this whole thing sort of went haywire, was trending in the right direction. But now with no defensive coordinator, no quarterback in the future in Dante Moore, and more than likely your head coach looking for a new job, I don't know where UCLA goes from here. So the Big Ten will be difficult without question. Best of luck to the good folks in Westwood. We mean that. Like going to the Rose Bowl, man, as a kid, that is an awesome place to go watch a football game. When UCLA is up and humming, like that's a great atmosphere. I think that the whole Chip Kelly situation is unfortunate. But again, I think Chip Kelly was always benefiting UCLA, and we'll see how much UCLA benefits Chip Kelly in the future. But something to monitor there, something to keep an eye on. Hard to blame Chip Kelly at this point in time. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.